It is 25 minutes after the hour. It's Tuesday, and Tuesdays almost always mean Dr. Don Clark. Occasionally, he escapes from Garden Valley, Texas, and travels to other places, but thankfully we've got him this week. Don is a biochemist, spent a lot of time in the pharmaceutical industry. He probably knows about parasites. We'll talk about that in just a second. Don also on the board of Creation Moments of Ministry, based in Minnesota. They've been around for, good grief, it's been 60 years now, Don?
Oh, gee, I don't know. We did celebrate the 50th anniversary.
Yeah,
it seemed like several years ago, so it could be approaching 60.
The story is out. There's something called Cyclospora that's making a lot of people ill. Not deathly ill. As far as I know, there have been no deaths reported. Hospitalizations, yes. I suppose if you're sickly, you're weak, or you've got a particular susceptibility, you could wind up in the hospital. But it's not a virus and it's not a bacteria. It's a parasite. So I picture a little wormy thing. But it's a protozoa. What's that? Is it like a single cell?
It's a single cell. And if you've taken biology and especially in college, maybe in high school, but protozoas are they're in every textbook, biology textbook on microbiology, that type of thing. But they're just large single cell creatures that go around and engulf their food and then multiply. So it's much bigger than E. coli or salmonella, which is normally what you think of when you have food poisoning. Oh, I got
physically
E. coli.
larger you're talking about, but it's probably less common. But I don't know that because parasites have been around forever. Various parts of the world have really been victimized by different kinds of parasites. I don't hear about them too often here, but apparently this little critter can hide in the folds of lettuce. And so the original suspicion was people here got it, and in some cases, many cases, at Taco Bells in the Midwest, who get their lettuce from a place called Taylor Farms in Mexico. And so the FDA tested some lettuce from them and said they found it and announced it publicly. And so Taylor Farms immediately initiated a huge recall. Turns out they're only responsible for 1% of our iceberg lettuce supply, though. So did we find the culprit? Did we not?
Well, not according to the new article you sent this morning. They didn't, because the FDA said, "Oops, sorry, folks, that was a false positive."
Oops. Yep. Oops.
And so Taylor Farms initiated a recall. Taco Bell, took all of their lettuce out of their stores, out of their restaurants, and a lot of things were happening, but we're not sure if that was the culprit or not.
I was waiting to see if the lettuce shelves were cleaned off at our grocery store, but I noticed no change. And
I noticed in that same article you sent earlier this morning, it was that Walmart was clearing out some of their own brand lettuce, iceberg lettuce, from their stores, and kind of cleaning that out and replacing it with.
Well, by what logic would we single out iceberg lettuce as the culprit? Just because people from Taco Bell eating in Taco Bell, customers got the disease, the Cyclospora. That means that, well, somebody had a blood test and the doctor said, "Oh, it's Cyclospora." So where do you find Cyclospora? You find it in leafy green vegetables, but it could be broccoli, it could be peas, it could be heaven forbid, kale.
Does
Taco Bell serve broccoli? Does Taco Bell serve broccoli?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
But I mean, the one that I go to.
No, but it's also found in fruit. They were also suspicious of fresh raspberries, as being potentially contaminated, and anything with, that we get. So it's part of, this brings us to the story, not story, but where do we get our food?
The matter here, yeah.
where do we get our food? I mean, we used to grow all of our own food. And as you may or may not recall, depending on how old you are, and some of us are relatively up in age, we we had local farms, and we got our produce from local farms, and you knew the relative quality of the local farm, and the farmer would take care of his crop as best as he knew how, and it got delivered to the grocery store or to the farmer's market. We have the road we live on is a farmer's market, a farm to market road, and there are many of these in Texas, and they used to go to the market. And so that has been changed in our modern day. I grew up in New Orleans, and we had a mega grocery store called Swagamans, and Swagamans was aisles and aisles and aisles of fresh produce and products, and it was like going into a warehouse with a food, but it was a food store, and so many people went there, and you got your groceries, and it was all nice and fresh. Well, that kind of started the trend of these mega stores. And, well, if you have a mega store, you got to get your product from somewhere. And then we got used to, for example, having fresh fruit and fresh vegetables all year round. Well, we don't grow fresh fruit and vegetables all year round in the United States, so you got to look elsewhere. And the elsewhere is south of the border. And our closest neighbor is Mexico. So a lot of this supply is coming from Mexico. Now, any of us who have traveled out of the country on missionary trips, for example, know that when you go to Mexico or when you go to any of the countries south of the border, whether it be Guatemala, Honduras, or any of these places, you don't eat the uncooked vegetables, or especially lettuce and tomatoes, unless you know the people that are preparing it and they have pre-washed it with bleach or something like this. And so it's not surprising then that we have seen an uptick, as a matter of fact, a tremendous increase in pathogen problems coming from fresh fruits and vegetables south of the border.
Well, I remember going overseas in the service, and they were saying, "Don't drink the water."
And yeah, don't drink the water.
Bottled
Why
water.
not? What's wrong with the water? I mean, so don't brush your teeth with the water and rinse your toothbrush out with the water, use bottled water, and all of these precautions that we use when we go.
Well, in part, as I was told, that's because the local people can do that. They're used to whatever lives in their water. And
And they've built up
they tolerate
immunities.
it.
Yeah, they built up
Yeah.
immunities to the parasites in in the local environment. But us coming from a more pristine environment have not, and so we tend to get sick rather quickly. And we would always have one or two people on the mission trip that would wind up having stomach problems and throwing up and diarrhea and all this other stuff, Montezuma's revenge, as it was called. And you would have to take an antibiotic or something in order to help clear that up out of your system. And so you would take some of that with you, just in case you did get infected. But now we have a situation where we're importing these products, especially in the winter, into this country. They're going to major distribution centers and processing centers. In this example, Taylor Farms is one of them. And then they're getting into distributors such as Cisco, and then Cisco then provides the foods that go to the grocery stores and restaurants and things. So if you've got a contamination in your food supply, it gets distributed all throughout the country uh, pretty quickly.
So you're saying that the contamination could happen at any one of many different points of transfer.
Are you suggesting we just get used to it?
I,
And
There's an
you know
idea.
which brings up another question. We went to in Vietnam, we were told don't eat the street food, and that was generally a good idea. It was available and it was always cooked. But we went to other restaurants who were sourcing their foods apparently from the same places,
right,
and they were fine. I mean,
and
everything was fine.
Right, and it depends on how it's prepared. And the finer restaurants are going to prepare it for a more Western culture where they know that people are much more sensitive to the local toxins, if you will, or local microbes than other folks. So than the natives.
By the same token, I went to my brother-in-law's place over the weekend, and he lives in southern Minnesota, and a very nice neighborhood, very nice area, very, very nice. And we had very nice catered meals, and I had Montezuma's Revenge overnight. I think I was the only one.
Did you have iceberg lettuce?
I don't know what I had. I mean, the lettuce was chopped up.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it was chopped up with a bunch of other stuff. It was, there was cranberries and there was olives and there was other greens involved.
They call that a salad, David.
Yeah, it was called a salad. Yes, in fact, that's what it said right there on the label. Salad. This is a salad. And my brother-in-law wouldn't eat it, but I did. And I think perhaps that's where but in Minnesota.
Yeah, in Minnesota. This stuff gets distributed all throughout the country. So you're not safe in Minnesota. I mean, we're closer to Mexico here in Texas. And so you would expect a bigger problem in Texas, but these plants distributed them throughout the United States. So you're no safer than we are.
Well,
so what does this mean for the consumer? Where does this leave the consumer? Either we need stricter testing methods of food products coming over, south of the border, coming from other places. And this can happen. I mean, we can have contaminated food from the producers here in the United States. It's just that we have a different problem here in the United States. It's called you get toxins from the pesticides and the fungicides that are used, and how do you clean that from your products? So in this modern age, we've created problems that weren't there before because of the farming techniques, for one, and because of this desire to have a raspberry in the middle of winter, and nice looking raspberries, as if it was the fall or early late summer or something. And if the consumer wants these products, somebody's going to figure out how to get them to the consumer. And
there has to be a system where when there's a problem, it can be isolated, discovered, and rectified. And this globalized economy that we're in, that's nigh unto impossible, I think.
It's they've got better systems for E. coli and Salmonella. Those are bacteria, and so you can culture those pretty easily. This protozoa, this Cyclospora, is apparently much more difficult to culture and to figure out whether or not somebody, some food product is contaminated. Now, you don't know you have a problem until people get sick.
A lot of times you got the bag salad that says it's washed, it's ready to eat, and all these products are, but that in the case of this particular parasite, it's more difficult to clean it off the produce than either bacteria or viruses, apparently. They can hide in the leaves. and still be there even though it's been washed. So the word is still you want to wash all that stuff before you consume it during at least during
And
this
and that
season.
may not take care of the problem either, because you're
Mm,
just doing the same thing that, the supplier is doing
hmm
with he's got big conveyor belts, and, they're spraying the fruit or the vegetables from either side of it, and, you take it, you rinse it off under the sink, and if the organism is hiding in, a fold of lettuce or whatever, um, that technique is not gonna work, and so you have to, uh, use something else, and that one of the things I read about the Cyclospora is that, well, if you soak your, lettuce in this case, um, or fruit, if it's raspberries or blueberries, whatever, in a vinegar solution, um, that seems to take care of the protozoa. I don't know if it kills the protozoa or if they get so irritated by the acid in the vinegar that they just let go, and then, they can be washed off, from that point of view. But it seems like vinegar, and I've seen baking soda, adding baking soda to the vinegar, because then it bubbles and you get that bubbling activity, that helps clean fruits and vegetables a lot better than just rinsing them under the faucet,
And
because
this
that's what
story about
the
the
supplier
FDA,
does.
the story about the FDA is a little disturbing. And there's a Dr. Celine Gounder. She's a medical correspondent with CBS News. She says the unusual thing isn't the false positive; it's that an unconfirmed single sample result went public on a Saturday and was withdrawn on a Sunday. So the damage is done almost instantaneously to Thomas Farms and maybe to Taco Bell and to Walmart who removed product. I mean, that's a tremendous expense, maybe for no good reason. And I'm not sure we still have isolated the source for this.
And that, yeah, therein lies, part of the problem, because if you can't really identify where this is coming from, and all of these products are, I'm sure, are a kind of a conglomerate of many, many different farms. Let's assume it came from Mexico. I mean, and then you don't know which farm was it that was the source of the problem, or was it all the farms? And since it's not 100% of the people that eat this product, it's probably from different farms, and maybe one or two farms are contaminated, and this particular problem is due to the irrigation, um, basically human fecal, products, if you will, in the irrigation solution that's used to irrigate the plants, and so that
So
then
water from
carries
polluted rivers, for example, or other sources, and
exactly.
it spreads. So what could we do in this day and age to protect ourselves? We can wash whatever we buy, but that's no guarantee. Maybe we should turn once again to a nation of home farmers, huh?
Well, we're back to that bottom line. I mean, at least you have control over it, assuming you can grow your own fruits and vegetables. Now, we can't do this. It's seasonal, and in life's past, everything used to be seasonal, and we had canning, techniques, and jarring, where you take your fresh fruit and you make jams with them, and you take your peas and whatever else, and you jar them so you could have them during the winter months. It's a little hard to do that with lettuce. So if you want lettuce the whole year, you're going to have a greenhouse. But at least you have control over the situation. Now, there are many communities, and we have them here in Texas, where you have co-ops, and they are it's local produce and it's local meat, And there are controls over the produce and the fruits and vegetables that are being, produced, and they go into a co-op. And if you join the co-op, you can work at the co-op, and that's sometimes part of the requirement is that of joining is that you work, part-time to divide up the produce that's coming in, for example. Um, but you get the fresh product that is being produced right there locally. That has many advantages. Not only do you know that, okay, this is relatively going to be much safer, but it's going to be much fresher uh, as well, because this produce that comes from Mexico, for example, by the time you get it to your table, it could be 2 or 3 weeks. And the packaging techniques that and the various things that they've done, they have perfected the preservation of the product. But the problem is that inside the lettuce, for example, or inside the vegetable, when you pick it, it it starts to degrade. So the vitamins that would naturally be there break down very, very quickly after it's picked. And so by the time you get it, it probably doesn't have a whole lot of vitamins left. Now, the minerals aren't going anywhere, like the zinc and potassium and things like that. That's not necessarily going anywhere, but the vitamins that one would hope that you get from green leafy vegetables, for example, if they're not there in the concentration that you're hoping, then the food product is not doing what it could be doing, for you anyway. Again, it brings you back to local farming. The best is the evening that you're going to have lettuce or you're going to have spinach or whatever, you go out your back door and you go pick some fresh lettuce and spinach, you prepare it and serve it. That's going to give you the highest amount of vitamins and minerals than any product you could get. But the next best thing would be a co-op, I would think.
I'm wondering if more densely populated areas in suburbs I'm talking about, where you've got housing development after housing development, that some land be set aside by whatever municipalities in charge as a communal farm, where again neighbors can get together and have there be some organization, I suppose, maybe some tax breaks for it. At any rate, organized encouragement for such development. And not only communes where you're sharing in the work and you've got a building usually where the product is distributed, but actually a garden, a community garden where you can share in the produce in return for some labor. People are so busy, though, I'm not sure that that's realistic at all.
Well, and it does happen in some communities because I know, for example, one of my daughters lives in Cleveland, and they do have little community plots where you can rent, if you will, a couple of rows or so of a garden space, and you go and work your garden. But it's individuals that are working their own little plot of land in this block or so, half a
Do they
block
they pay a fee
area where
pay a fee
they
for that maybe?
there is a fee. Yeah,
Uh,
you rent the space basically, but you have to tend to it. Nobody's going to tend to it for you, so you got to do the weeding and you got to do the sowing and all this other the soil prep and all of this stuff. And so, yes, it does take time. Gardening does take time. There are benefits, though. There are physical benefits and emotional benefits to gardening in that you're out in the sunshine. So you're getting sunlight that if you worked in an office all day, you wouldn't be getting. And that's very, very good for your health, as well as, the exercising of bending over and all of this other stuff. But it's also it can have a calming effect. So it can, if you uh, get peace from working this type of activity, um, then you'll have some great physical and I wouldn't necessarily call it spiritual benefits, but you'll have some psychological benefits as well. Now, it's interesting that the when man was cursed, God, cursed the ground, and he said, by the sweat of the brow you shall eat. Our modern day of living is that we're not doing that anymore, for the most part. Now, there are some that are working in these mega farms that are doing it, but they have big machines. But God's intention was that you're going to be spending your time out in the garden in order to provide food for yourself. And we've gotten away with that. We've gotten away from that. And as a consequence, we are not as healthy today as we were when we were an agrarian society. Agrarian societies are much healthier than the office environment that we have today, because you're under artificial light, you're sitting down, you're not moving, you're not getting the exercise that you need, and our bodies were designed to move. And they were designed, you have skin, for example, everybody has skin, and mostly. And the skin is designed not only to keep stuff in, but it absorbs radiation from the sun, and it produces vitamin D and other health benefits. It improves your immune system. If you're having immune system problems, the best thing you can do is spend 20 minutes out in the sun, without exposing as much skin as you can, of course, without getting burned. So that is a great benefit. But we've gotten away from that, and having backyard gardens would be a good thing, I think, for society as a whole and for the individual as far
What do you
as
think
health
about
benefits.
farms that sell and distribute online? They either ship it, or in our locale, there's some organic farms where you can place an order, whether it's for raw milk or for meat or other products that they have, and they'll deliver it to a local shopping center. You go there when the truck arrives and pick up your order. That seems like a compromise. I don't see it solving the whole problem, but I kind of like the idea that there is someone there raising organic stuff and tending to the quality, then the food, the nutritional value, and getting it to you quickly without multiple middlemen.
Right, and that is a great benefit if you can find that. Now you can go online and order grass-fed chickens and eggs and beef and lamb if you want. I mean, however, the cost is probably going to be double than what you find in the grocery store. So there is a price to quality food. But in the long term, if you look at the long term, if you're interested in your health, long term, you will gain probably several years of better quality life doing something like that than going to your grocery store, especially going in between in the aisle, stay around the
On
outside
the
of
other
the
hand, even
grocery
though you're
store.
paying more for it, we would benefit from eating less,
Yeah,
probably.
and eating less, yes,
Yeah.
and definitely eating less sugar. Mhm.
Interesting story. It's Cyclospora. Yeah, I said that right, didn't I? Cyclospora.
Cyclospora. Mhm.
Yeah, and don't let it scare you to death. I don't know that it's reached pandemic levels. Just kind of be aware of what you can do to defend yourself. That is, wash the vegetables, leafy greens, even an extra time if you can. But the risk is still small, still slight, but they don't know where it's coming from. So
Right.
stay tuned to that. Don, again, a member of the board of Creation Moments. The website is creationmoments.com, and there you will find scientific information that supports, explains, and teaches the biblical story of creation. It's a good place to spend some time. creationmoments.com. Don, we're thankful for you. Thank you for getting us up to date on the Cyclospora story, and we'll look forward to next week.
All righty, you